In the history of American Cosa Nostra, the threat of violence is just as important as its use, and nearly every member and associate in its history is capable. There are individuals, however, who stand out even among their peers in the underworld. These mobsters are the 30 most feared wise guys in American Cosa Nostra. Number 4. Bonanno family capo, Thomas, Tommy Karate, Pitera. Thomas Pitera was born on December 2, 1954 in New York City. His father was Joseph Pitera, an Italian-American who immigrated from Campania in the province of Salerno, Italy. His mother, Catherine Bukowski, was of German and Polish descent. The couple raised young Thomas in the Gravesend neighborhood of Brooklyn, where his father was an independent concession stand wholesale candy salesman who sold Mary Jane, Pixie Sticks, Red Hots, Lemon Drops, and Bazooka Bubblegum. Pitera attended the David A. Booty Junior High School, where he would be bullied by some of the kids in attendance. He wanted to join the varsity baseball team, but did not try out due to being ostracized by fellow students. In an act that would foreshadow his future, he would later break into Booty and steal the school baseball team's equipment as an act of revenge and sold it to fences in the neighborhood. Tired of being the victim of constant bullying, Pitera began to gravitate towards martial arts. In junior high, he started watching martial arts movies. At the age of 12, Pitera had become a huge fan of the 1966 television show The Green Hornet, starring actors Bruce Lee and Van Williams. This triggered his lifelong interest in martial arts. It wasn't long before he asked his parents to enroll him in karate classes. After persuading his parents, he joined a karate school in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, and quickly became one of the class's best students. He also changed his diet and appearance, dining on Asian cuisine such as sushi and growing his hair past his shoulders. As he progressed in his training, he began to enter tournaments, winning several. Along with the accolades came cash prizes and a ticket to live in Japan and learn martial arts from local masters. He went to Tokyo and studied under Sensei Hiroshi Masumi in the ways of Ko-Ryu Ninjutsu. He ended up staying in Japan for 27 months. When Pitera returned to New York in 1976, he not only had the skill to handle himself, but also a newfound confidence that he had lacked on the streets growing up. Upon returning to Brooklyn, Pitera became close to Bonanno family mobster Anthony Indelicato, the son of Sonny Red Indelicato, a powerful capo in the Bonanno crime family. Anthony Bruno Indelicato was known as a stone-cold killer with a bad cocaine habit. Pitera became an associate of the Bonanno crime family, and through the Indelicatos, became well-known in underworld circles. Soon he would be asked to put in work for the family. He showed his superiors that they could count on him when it came to executing murder contracts or getting rid of bodies. Besides being a skilled martial artist, Pitera had become an expert on how one can hurt, kill, and dispose of the human body. He studied a number of books on torture, killing, and anything he thought was important for a mobster to know. It is rumored that he committed his first murder in 1978. Things would change quickly for Pitera when on July 12, 1979, Bonanno acting boss Carmine Galante was murdered. This set in motion a chain of events leading to the infamous Three Capos murder, in which Alphonse Sonny Red Indelicato would be murdered as well. Sonny Red's murder put his son Anthony Bruno Indelicato, and by proxy Tommy Pitera, in serious peril. However, Bruno Indelicato forswore vengeance for the death of his father and was spared the same fate. Bruno Indelicato had lost a lot of clout, however that did not stop the rise of his young associate Tommy Pitera. Tommy Karate, as he was now known because of his martial arts background, would join Anthony Spiro's Bath Beach crew and become one of his most relied upon hitmen and loan collectors. The chip on his shoulder from being picked on as a youth was now resurfacing as violent cruelty. It didn't matter if it was a man or a woman. This became apparent when the love of his life, a woman by the name of Celeste Lipari, died from a drug overdose. Lipari was beautiful, but she was also a junkie. Lipari would go out clubbing and use cocaine and heroin to have a good time. She was usually accompanied by her good friend Phyllis Birdie, who was another pretty neighborhood girl who had gotten addicted to the product peddled by many of the area's mobsters. Though both women had chosen their lifestyles, Pitera believed Birdie was a bad influence on Lipari, so when Lipari overdosed and died, Pitera blamed Birdie. Pitera knew Birdie was close to a member of his crew named Frank Ganji. Knowing that, Pitera had ordered Ganji to inform him the next time he saw Phyllis Birdie. It is rumored that Ganji did not want to inform Pitera on Birdie. However, Ganji would be backed into a corner when one of Pitera's dealers saw them together. Pitera headed straight over, walked into the bedroom where Birdie was sleeping, and pumped 3 bullets into her head. He then moved her body into the bathroom and began dismembering her in the jacuzzi. He placed her severed head on the edge of the tub, creating an image that would haunt Ganji for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Pitera's reputation continued to rise within the Bonanno family. Spiro and other Bonanno heavyweights such as Joe Messina knew when they handed Pitera a contract, he would take care of it immediately and exactly as ordered. Because of this, Pitera would officially become a made man in the Bonanno crime family. He became such a sought-after hitman that the Bonannos would lend him out to other families when they needed a special piece of work done. An example of this occurred when his Bonanno superiors sent him to kill former Gambino associate and undercover informant Wilfred Willie Boy Johnson as a favor to Gambino boss John Gotti. On August 29, 1988, Pitera, along with Vincent Kojak Gaetano, allegedly ambushed Johnson as he walked from his home to his car and shot him to death. The gunman fired 19 rounds, and Johnson was hit once in each thigh, twice in the back, and at least 6 times in the head. The body count continued to rise when Pitera murdered Talal Siksik. Siksik was a drug dealer whom Pitera shot to death at point-blank range in a Brooklyn apartment because he was thought to be a police informant. With the help of Frank Ganji, Siksik was dismembered with a hacksaw. Pitera's approach to murder and body disposal was as cold-hearted as it was clinical. He often used the William T. Davis Wildlife Refuge because he believed that the damp soil would accelerate decomposition and the wildlife refuge would ensure that bodies were not discovered during construction projects. Pitera studied books on dissection and carried a special toolkit for cutting up bodies. He always insisted on burying corpses deep enough so that police dogs could not locate their scents. Before burying body parts, he either wrapped them in plastic or placed them in suitcases in order to make discovery less likely. Pitera's weakness was that he enjoyed keeping jewelry and other souvenirs of his work. This quirk caused many to speculate that Tommy Karate had serial killer tendencies. No one was safe around Tommy Pitera, not even his own crew. Crew member Joseph Balzano was killed when Pitera lost trust in him. Pitera and Ganji pretended they were taking him out to dinner to discuss various problems. Instead, Ganji stabbed Balzano with an ice pick, whereupon Pitera shot him in the back of the head and slit his throat. Balzano's body was dumped in an alley near a gas station. With Tommy Pitera, even a petty slight could mean death. As the result of a petty dispute, Merritt Kucharski, another criminal, was stabbed by Pitera and his throat slit by Ganji. Andrew Djakakis made the same mistake. Pitera planned to torture and kill Andrew because of Djakakis' insulting behavior towards he and other organized crime members. Ganji, who was a close friend of Djakakis, decided to kill him first, rather than allow Pitera to torture him. Ganji and another crew member picked up Djakakis for a meeting. While driving, Djakakis would be shot in the back of the head. His body was left in a vacant lot in Brooklyn. Frank Ganji soon started to have doubts about life in the mob. Ganji was pulled over and arrested for DUI, and while in jail, he started talking to a detective he knew. He then became an informant and gave up his partner, Thomas Pitera. On March 15, 1989, Pitera heard a rumor that 2 members in his family were informants. Pitera soon murdered members Richie Leone and Saul Stern. Pitera ambushed them in one of the nightclubs he owned. The men walked in and they never walked out. While Ganji was in jail, he began to envision the atrocities that Pitera would do to anyone he felt betrayed by. By 1990, Tommy Karate Pitera was one of the most feared wise guys in the Mafia. Little did he know that with Ganji's help, the law was closing in on him. On June 4th, 1990, Pitera was indicted for heading a drug-dealing crew and for his involvement in 7 murders, including the 1988 murder of Wilfred Johnson. Altogether, investigators believe that Pitera had been involved in as many as 60 murders. On June 25, 1992, Pitera was convicted of murdering 6 of those people and supervising a massive drug-dealing operation in Brooklyn. However, Pitera would be acquitted of the 1988 Wilfred Johnson murder. During the deliberation on sentencing, the jury rejected the death penalty for Pitera. In October 1992, alluding to evidence that Pitera brutally killed his victims and dismembered their bodies, Judge Rina Raghi sentenced him to life in prison. As she passed sentence, Judge Raghi would address Pitera directly, saying, "Mr. Pitera, nobody deserves to die as these people have died." As of April 2017, Tommy Pitera is serving a life sentence at the United States Penitentiary McCreary near Pine Knot, Kentucky. Tommy Karate Pitera was one of the most brutal and fearsome hitmen in the history of the Mafia. Jim Hunt, Assistant Special Agent in charge of the New York DEA, stated, "Tommy was a psychopath, an animal. He'd walk into a social club and the guys would all turn around to face him. No one wanted their back to Tommy Pitera." Chief Prosecutor David W. Shapiro said in court documents that he murdered almost everyone himself, taking delight in being the executioner and then the butcher of his victims' bodies. Perhaps author Philip Carlo, who wrote the book on Pitera called The Butcher, Anatomy of a Mafia Psychopath, said it best when he stated to the New York Post, "He was the baddest of the bad. He scared the scary guys." Without a doubt, Tommy Karate Pitera is one of the Mafia's most feared gangsters.